In the world of Black girls, it's the light-skinned ones who get to have expressed self-esteem. When I say expressed, I mean that their self-esteem gets to have words and actions that others hear and see and are even likely to accept. We know it's true because it comes up in phrases like, you're acting light-skinned, particularly when directed at dark-skinned people, because the notion here is that you are not pretty and privileged enough to have expressed self-esteem. We need to have us a little conversation about accountability getting boiled down to simple jealousy and how that's actually linked to our self esteem and who we think should have it. Right after the intro. And welcome back to another episode of the DailyDonna with me, your host, Dr. Donna Oriowo, sex and relationship therapist in Washington, D.C. metro area, author of Drink Water and Mind Your Business, a Black woman's guide to unlearning the BS and healing self-esteem. And if you didn't know, that's where we started. That quote that I read is from page 70 of Drink Water and Mind Your Business. Go and get your copy where books are sold. Now, I alluded to this a little bit yesterday. So here it goes. Your self-esteem and where you believe you belong on the hierarchy of self-esteem, the hierarchy that you've been taught about who's supposed to have self-esteem, is what allows you to see and believe and accept how someone else behaves based off where you think they think their self-esteem is. I know that sounded a little convoluted, but let me cook. So, Cheyenne Bryant is light-skinned, light-eyed, loose curl textured hair. Could be a doctor, could be not. What do we know? Is also seen in certain places in a position of educational authority, right? So Club Shay Shay, Joe Budden podcast, talking to this pastor, she all over the place. She outside and she has books. All of these things signal to us that, hey, this person knows something. It signals this to us because we see doctor in front of her name, but also if you remove that credential altogether, part of what also helps to signal it is her skin tone, her hair texture, her eye color, her body size. All of these things also signal. Why? They signal because the white supremacist delusion has attached meaning to each of those things, and each of those things say, hey, I'm closer to whiteness. And that closeness to that proximity to whiteness also reads in the halo effect as being someone who is good, right, smart, beautiful, God-ordained, given everything that needs to be happening here. Another thing is that we have also been taught to protect this thing that is supposedly good and given from God on high. So when we see that a light-skinned woman or a white person is receiving a lot of criticism or feedback in a maybe not so great feeling way, we've already cast this person as being in the role of one who is innocent. And depending on who's doing the talking, we have already cast them as being the villain. So when Dr. Raquel Martin, beautiful dark skin, also credentialed, actually credentialed, not talking about Cheyenne, but going back on some of the things that may be misconceptions, the things that were erroneously stated, the falsehoods that were given on public platform that could cause harm, not just in the field of coaching, not just in the field of mental health, but also to the people who would go to this person under the idea of what has been said and be looking to engage with others under this same idea. She was marked as aggressive. She was marked as jealous and petty, envious. Now, we have to sit in that piece, right? The thing that marks Raquel Martin as petty and jealous and envious and even being against Black people and not wanting to see Black women succeed, is the very thing that protects Cheyenne, right? It is the casting of Cheyenne as innocent means that Raquel and anyone like Raquel gets cast as a villain, gets cast as a devil. Because how dare you have this conversation? Except this conversation is not even about them. It's about you. It's about you. It's about you because we have all been taught who is the most pretty. We have been taught what the beauty standard is. Either some people have said it outright or they have also said it covertly. It is the reason why Black girls, by the time they're 5, understand the value of skin tone and hair texture. They understand the value because regardless of the fact that a lot of us will never say it to a 5-year-old child, we behave it, and children are smart and their brains are sponges and they're picking up on all of it, right? Which means that you understand the value of skin tone and hair texture. And whether or not you intend to go with or try to work against or try to separate yourself from overall, you still know what it is, especially if you have been raised in these United States. Then you not only know what it is, but have very likely already in accordance to what the hierarchy says should be true. And what it says that should be true is that people who look like Cheyenne get to have expressed out loud, assertive self-esteem, and also get the benefit of the doubt that they are correct in the thing that they said. Meanwhile, someone with Raquel Martin's skin tone, my skin tone, someone, even if the credentials are the same, is going to be seen as someone who doesn't know as much and who must be petty and jealous and small and being aggressive, not assertive. Even if they never say anything about the person, but say something about what the person said. So your knowledge of supremacy culture, your knowledge of the way that supremacy culture works, your knowledge of who is privileged and favored and who is not came into play in the way that we view what is going on. Even if implicit bias first takes over, implicit bias leans toward the thing you already were taught from when you were yay high to a fly, which means that you then had to do additional work sometimes to reorder your thinking, to reorder, be like, wait. Let me look again at this thing that is happening, right? So some of it is implicit bias, and some of it is that y'all are married to the implicit bias. You believe this thing for whatever reasons that you believe. And I would ask you to consider you, what you look like, and where you stand on the hierarchy of privilege. There are some who hold places of privilege or wish to hold places of privilege and or believe themselves to hold more privilege than they actually do. So the idea that anybody could have anything negative to say is already an affront. And I would say that if you're seeing pieces of yourself in Cheyenne, anything that anyone says about Cheyenne feels like an affront to you because it's not her self-esteem, it's not her credentials that you are defending, it's your self-esteem. It's you that you're defending yourself against the Raquel Martins. You are defending yourself against the therapist that would have something to say or anyone who would lob any sort of criticism because you are seeing you in her. And I would say that one could argue that that shows the fragileness of your own self-esteem because you not only do you need the accolades, you need people to not be lobbing criticisms. I feel fragile in my self-esteem and I need to defend this self-esteem, and I need to defend it by evoking the thing that was already within me, the thing that already moved me into this position, and use more of that same language. You jealous. It's the same thing that Cheyenne did, right? Instead of pausing and taking the moment to hear what was being said and to answer it according to what was said, right? To offer a real answer, to take some responsibility, to take some accountability. Instead, she deflected. And she deflected more than once on the Joe Budden podcast specifically by first saying that, like, pretty privilege doesn't matter. It does not a thing. It doesn't do anything here. And when it was doubled down upon, like, no, please answer this question, then it became only God could judge me, right? So then it moved into spiritual bypassing, because while you might be able to circumvent someone else being like, no, I really need you to answer this question, the second you evoke God, you stop the conversation, because now another person who believes in God doesn't want to get into a space where they're questioning you and your God. So she used spiritual bypassing plus pretty privilege to avoid a portion of the conversation. And the thing is, some of y'all are doing the same thing. Your own self-esteem, your own self-view is tied to Cheyenne. So much so that anyone who is offering feedback, anyone who is offering correction, anyone who is offering a differing point of view feels like a threat. You're trying to defend your identity that you have found within her. Part of the problem is that we've been taught who should not have expressed self-esteem, who is not allowed to be seen as assertive, but rather seen as aggressive, who is not allowed to be seen as one with a boundary, but one who is seen as being staunchly opposing, one who is seen as offering their opinion versus someone who you feel like is attacking someone else, right? And generally speaking, the person who is cast in this other role is someone who is already considered to be less than desirable, right? Basically, you're taught that someone like Raquel Martin is not and cannot be smarter than someone like Cheyenne, by if only by way of skin tone, by way of physical appearance, right? And that furthermore, because someone is dark skinned, they would only have a desire to be light, because we assume someone has less because we do not see them in the same types of rooms. We assume then that they must also want to be in the same type of rooms. And so we move a conversation from being about accountability. Are you licensed? Why aren't you licensed? Why did you give the information that you give? Do you have a PhD? Do you have a master's degree? How did you get in this thing? And what makes you a psychology expert? We move it from those questions of accountability to ones of jealousy, because we are not yet ready to contend that we also are people who run away from accountability like our asses are on fire. We also don't want to take responsibility or accountability for our actions. Responsibility are task oriented. Accountability is outcome oriented. We don't want to think about how the things we say and do can impact others and ourselves and the world around us any more than we want to think about that thing that we were supposed to do that we didn't do and how that also had an impact. We don't want to think about that thing. So we are not defending Cheyenne from taking accountability. We are defending our right to never have to take accountability for ourselves as well. Because nothing that was said was harsh. It was more a question of, do you know what you're talking about, because the information you gave in public forum was incorrect? I don't know if that is a wrong thing to say, but people certainly felt the way. So, where does your self-esteem lie? And how does your self-esteem help you to interact with new information? A person with secure self-esteem is a person who learns, a person who hears, a person who can integrate new knowledge and form new opinions, growth mindset. A person with vacant self-esteem ain't doing none of that. A person with fragile self-esteem is fragile and damaged self-esteem is often moving from a from a fixed mindset space whereby you believe that you have all the information that you ever possibly could need and that you can't get any better, you can't get any smarter. So you're not really willing to engage because you don't know that you can change, that you don't know that you can grow. And so I find myself wondering, not only where are you as far as the spectrum of self-esteem from secure to vacant, with your fragile and your damaged being in the middle, but also whether or not by the way you look, by the way that other people interact with you, if you are a person who is allowed to have expressed self-esteem. Because otherwise, I'm sure the world outside just reminds you in one way or another that you acting light skinned, that you acting uppity, that you are moving beyond your station. Anyway, it was just something that I was thinking of. Is something that has continued to be on my mind. Um, and it's just a slightly different, I would say, framing from the conversation that we had yesterday, which I think you should also go back and watch. So I guess the question I have for you that feel free to answer it in the comments. Are you allowed, with what you look like, with what you know, with where you are in life, are you allowed to express self-esteem? Or do you find that people try to remind you that have somehow stepped beyond your station? Just a question for you to answer, hopefully in the comment section. Y'all know how I like it. Discourse, not disrespect. Keep it cute in the comments. And you also know this, that I am Dr. Donna. This is the Daily Donna. And I will see you when? Tomorrow. Because we do this bad boy daily. All right, y'all. I am out. Bye.